Hey guys, I know I haven't made a video in a while. Shit's been going on, focusing on my animations for the Proboscis Sniper channel, and honestly, the commentary I said I had in the woodworks, I decided not to do. Not because I ended up liking the video, oh god no, but the fact that it was just so bad that all I could do is just say the same thing over and over and over again. Plus, I didn't really have anything witty to say about the video in general, so honestly, I just threw it aside. However, I will be getting on to making a video about something that I have been meaning to talk about for quite some time. Now, before I actually talk about it, I can't forget to bring up the whole hoopla that came right up that just jammed my inbox the moment I decided to log on to YouTube. You see, I decided to log on to YouTube one day and I noticed I got a ton of personal messages from some friends, subscribers, random people I've never heard of, all of them saying the same thing. They all asked, "Hey, Realm, you hear about the new Deadpool game coming out?" There were links all over the PMs of the video announcing the trailers for it, and at first, I was a little skeptical because, trust me, this isn't the first time I was told about something and ended up getting gypped from it. I remember people sending me links to pictures of what looked like a preview for a Klonoa anime, and once you know it, it was an April Fool's joke by Namco themselves. Yeah, Namco, seriously, fuck you, don't tease me like that again. However, curiosity got the better of me and I ended up looking at the videos. It was a press conference with High Moon Studios at San Diego Comic Con, where they were about to announce their newest game in production. Suddenly, a guy dressed as Deadpool hijacks the entire conference just to announce the Deadpool game. Possibly one of the funniest press conferences I've ever seen. There needs to be more reveals like this, seriously. You think perhaps maybe if we could work the technology a little, then maybe we can play projectors on the screen where it looks like Dr. Nefarious is hijacking an Insomniac press conference just to announce the new Ratchet and Clank game? That would be awesome. So after that, I realized this was actually legit. It was another game that I had to put on my I will play before I die list. Then my fragile little heart was broken the moment I found out it was only available on PS3 and Xbox 360. Me being a Wii owner was completely screwed from this. Then that's when I decided to go on my Steam profile and someone told me the Deadpool game is going to be available on Steam. That minute, I had to look in the stores, and wouldn't you know it, Deadpool was up on Steam. Hope finally returned. Then, through a friend of mine by the name of Kendathki, aka Revan, because, well, I happened to have been doing a little sprite work for him, and as a result, he decided to say, "Hey, for helping me with my sprite work, how about I pay you by giving you the Deadpool game?" So I basically just said, "Well, okay, if it's what you really want to do, go right ahead." And wouldn't you know, he gave me the Deadpool game. And I basically decided to give it a try the moment I installed it, and I gotta say this. This game is so awesome for so many good reasons. It is like, is it at all perfect? No. But why spoil it by talking about the negatives first? Let's just go a while and talk about the impressions that this game left me, because boy, did it leave an impression. I don't think it's a spoiler when I say that the humor is the best part of this freaking game. I haven't played a game this funny since Psychonauts for the PS2. By the way, that's another game I recommend you people get. That one's great, it's hilarious, and it's available on Steam. Really cheap too. Anyway, the direction that the comedy goes, it just screams Deadpool. The jokes come from something I'd hear in a Deadpool comic, which is amazing. He breaks the fourth wall, he spouts colorful language, and it's just Deadpool being the guy who he is. Not a single worry in the world and not caring in the process. For reals, the character is spot on in this game. I don't know a single thing in this game that I can say is out of character. It's fucking Deadpool. I don't want to say too much about the humor because I feel like I'd be ruining some of it for those of you who still want to play it, but all I gotta say is this. For those of you who've maybe seen the footage already, if you thought Wade bitch slapping Wolverine was an instant buy, oh, wait until you actually start playing the game. As for the gameplay, let me just say this, and I know this is going to sound weird when I say this. My favorite part of the game is upgrading Deadpool. No, I'm dead serious. That's one of my favorite things to do in this game. Alright, let me explain. Yes, the combat does feel stale when you first start out in the game. You only have swords, pistols, and grenades. That's it for the combat. But you know something? Guess what? It's the beginning of the game. Of course, it's not going to be as versatile as you're going to be later on in the game, alright? I mean, Jesus Christ, that'd be stupid to have. It's like being completely god mod at the very beginning of the game all the way to the end of the game. That'd be boring. Alright, It's like this. However, when you start purchasing some upgrades, you start to unlock a lot more combat opportunities for yourself. At first, your guns are only really useful in a third person view, but eventually, you learn how the auto locking mechanics work, and before you know it, you're rewarded by getting the ability to get an upgrade for yourself called Gun Fu, which basically doesn't require third person view to use, and you can use your guns with your melee combos. So you could do a couple of sword combos and then quickly switch to your guns by mashing the Z button. Yeah, Z is the control that you use for the Gun Fu on the keyboard if you're playing it on Steam. You do that, and you could use your guns along with your melee combos. It is freaking awesome, and it's something the game rewards you by actually going out of your way and using these weapons. And the best part is, the guns aim automatically. Yeah, for those of you who might have an issue with how you have to aim at the enemies in order to actually use the guns, yeah, guess what? You get the I Know Gun Fu upgrade. You don't need to worry about that anymore. Just mash that Z button and bam, you'll be shooting enemies all around you without even having to aim. It's fantastic. And the best part about the whole thing is, you can basically do this with all of your melee combos, and all of your guns eventually get their own gun fu kind of combos that you can do. Even the game-breaking plasma rifle, oh my god, everything just dies. And then, before you know it, you got yourself some momentum movements you can use with your guns and other weapons. So I can start doing a big combo with my melee weapon, start comboing with my guns, and finish it off with basically just nuking the entire area with a momentum movement, and then just build up the meters again for another momentum finisher. Seriously, every time I upgrade Deadpool, I feel the changes. I feel the increase of power. I feel the new opportunities I've unlocked. And frankly, that's how an upgrade system should make me feel. I mean, if I can think of an upgrade system that didn't really make me feel any different, it would have to be Sonic Generations. Yeah, the upgrades were there, but honestly, they were upgrades that didn't really make me feel different. Extra rings when I respawn? Okay, not like that matters. There's a lot of rings on the stadium. I get an extra boost gauge. Well, don't really need that either. I get through the levels just fine without the increased boost. Infinite boost? Oh yeah, my boost gauge never goes down. The only cost is I can't collect rings. Want an upgrade? Supersonic? Okay, sure, maybe if he was controllable. The only upgrades in that game that I can say were worth it are the shield upgrades. That's about it. In this game, I can get an upgrade where I heal faster by performing combos. That is awesome. It's just that kind of thing that it just gets better the more you expand on it. The more upgrades you get, the more involved the combat is. You even unlock new combos with weapons, so it's not just mashing one button. You can interchange different attacks into a combo to keep the combat more interesting. That's how it should be. I feel like I'm getting stronger, and that's what the upgrade system to this game makes me feel. That's a sign of a game that knows how to develop its character, not just story-wise, but gameplay-wise, and that's a good thing. Then there's the ability to counter and teleport as you evade, which I have to say is really powerful. It's basically, you can counter some enemies who are attacking you with melee weapons or guns if you have it equipped. I don't know what depends on what it is. I think it's the last weapon you use that decides to be your counter weapon. I don't know. It's very random when it decides to pick that, but either way, it lets you counter basically everything. And the best part about this is that you can chain together counter attacks. With that said, I think the counter ability is very useful. In fact, I often consider it game breaking. Yeah, you can't really counter large enemies, but honestly, how many small fries compared to the big guys or the flying guys? Not to mention, with every counterattack you do, you have so many invincibility frames where nothing can hurt you. That's why I consider it game breaking, considering that you can basically chain together 50 different counterattacks and not take any damage from anyone from it. All I have to say is this: if I can clear a room full of enemies with just one maneuver with little to no damage, then the maneuver is broken. As for the graphics, they have a very nice touch to them. Everything is well detailed, animates smoothly, character expressions are great, and boy, is it awesome yet gross at the same time looking at Wade just peeling apart. Seriously, you get to see his skin, his muscles, his bones, his underpants. It gets really bloody, people. Then to see all that damage heal over itself, it's just so cool to watch. In fact, sometimes after clearing a room of enemies, I just sit back for a bit and watch Deadpool's costume just heal itself. As for the voice work, well, it's Nolan North as Deadpool. How do you go wrong? It's like expecting something to go wrong with Steve Bloom playing Wolverine. You're living a fantasy if you think that's going to happen. Speaking of which, Wolverine in this game is voiced by Steve Bloom. See, what I tell you can't go wrong. Mr. Sinister sounds, well, sinister, which he should. Rogue sounds like the Southern Belle, like she should. Psylocke and Domino sound hot, which they should. And the rest of the characters sound great too. I do love the banter between Deadpool and the voices in his heads. And basically, I just have to address this. I would not doubt for a second if Nolan North was in the recording booth and the sound staff were just laughing themselves crazy listening to him talk to himself. It's the same feeling I get when Jason Griffith is doing scenes with Sonic and Shadow in a cutscene. I just can't help myself but picture Jason Griffith just recording the lines and the sound staff are just laughing their asses off going, that crazy son of a bitch is talking to himself. As for Cable, he's pretty cool. I mean, that's basically all you can really say about Cable Abel and describe his character in a way that doesn't resort to using the obvious pun of he's ahead of his time. So yes, the voice cast wasn't disappointing at all. Now for the issues that I have with the game, well, to be fair, they're kind of big ones. First of all, I like to say the soundtrack to the game isn't all that memorable. I mean, there's like only 3 songs from this game that I can remember on the top of my head, and it's the Who the Fuck Is That music video for Cable, the Deadpool rap, and the Crazy About Feeling Love both Wade and Death sing. Other than that, I can't really remember a single other song from the game. I mean, I guess the main menu music kinda sticks to you, but to me, it kinda doesn't. I mean, my main gripe is that majority of the songs in the game sound way too identical to the other ones in the game, and it just gives the soundtrack a lack of identity. It's mostly the same heavy guitar riffs, the same fast-paced drum beats. It just sounds too similar to the last track you just heard, and I'm sorry, but that doesn't help me get hooked with the game's soundtrack. Look at Pac-Man World 2. It has a variety in its soundtrack, and same thing with Epic Mickey. Each musical masterpiece has its own personality and sound to it. This game, I just feel like they recycled a lot of the same notes and rhythms from other pieces. I mean, it's not a bad soundtrack, that's not what I'm saying. The music is good for the game, it's not terrible, it's just not memorable. Another issue I have is how bland the enemy selection is. Like, I get it. We're using clones. That explains why there's a lot of the same kind of enemies, but I still don't find that an excuse to only rely on like 6 to 7 enemies. I saw one of the clones were basically a female version of Wolverine with claws and all. Well, hey, why not have made an enemy it's basically a clone of Phoenix and its abilities to slowly heal the enemies you're facing to make it harder to kill them? That would have been a great idea. An annoying one, but I think it'd work. Or how about a Cyclops clone where they fire you with optic blasts? Yeah, they have enemies that shot things from their chests like beams. Something that, I don't know, kind of gave me a few vibes of like, hey, I guess they decided to clone Havoc. But why not have a clone that shoots optic blasts? Or hey, why not Nightcrawler clones where they can teleport like you can? I mean, hell, if we could have Wolverine clones and Gambit clones, why not a Nightcrawler clone? Come on, opportunities here. I mean, just something so I'm not just facing the same enemies every 5 seconds. Like I said, I get the idea that we're facing clones, but I still think it's a lazy excuse to only include a small variety of enemies you faced. Then there's something about the combat I should address. I know, it sounds funny for me to say that when I was praising the combat a few minutes ago, for how progressively better it gets. But there's one thing that I have to address. While I love the melee weapons and the guns, throwing objects? I'm going to be honest, I rarely use the damn things. The only throwing items I've ever used was the bear traps for the big enemies. The landmines, pipe bombs, and grenades, well, you got me there, I rarely found any use for them. Seriously, most of the enemies I faced could have been taken down with a few hammer swings and shotgun blasts to the face. Besides the bear trap, I rarely use the throwing items, and it's not like I had any reason to. There's no upgrades for them, and they just come in a very limited supply. In fact, sometimes I don't use them so often, I forget I even have them. So, I mean, to be fair, stopping to throw a grenade does stop the flow of combat a little. But I will, however, say walk into a group of enemies while holding a grenade and watching Deadpool's hand explode is very funny. Also, why isn't there an ability to block in this game? My enemies can block my attack, so why can't I do that? I mean, sure, there's the game breaking counter, but what if I miss the opportunity to counter and I need to quickly block instead? Or if there's an enemy that I can't counter from, the option to block attacks would have been nice. Replay value is also another issue that I find with this game. I mean, after you get all the upgrades, complete the challenges, there's not really much you can do afterwards. Sure, if you want to play through the campaign again, that's fine, but you're not really going to get much different. You hear all the same lines, you go to all the same places, you fight all the same enemies and bosses. Nothing really changes on your next playthrough. Perhaps if there's some DLC content, perhaps, but other than that, there isn't much. There could be the pre-order maps that you could get if you were to pre-order the game, but if challenge mode and the pre-order maps are the only things that you can consider replay, then I'm sorry, there's not really much there. Not to mention it's a pretty short game. Expert players will probably finish this game in less than 12 hours. However, if there's one thing I can credit this game for, it gives the fans what it wants, and it's basically the reason we have this game to begin with. It's a game for the fans of Deadpool. If you are a fan of Deadpool, give this game a shot. If you're a Marvel fan, then at least give it some kind of a chance. If you like funny stories, then buy this game. Also buy Psychonauts 2, both are available on Steam. If you're a hardcore hack and slash fanatic, then unless your preferences on hack and slash games aren't too biased or stingy, then at least look at some gameplay footage before deciding to make a purchase. All in all, it's a good game, and honestly, I'd like to see a sequel made. I like to see them be able to take the things that were so good about this game and make them even better. Perhaps a better soundtrack, or perhaps maybe some extra combat options, extra gameplay options. They could make a better game than the first one. I mean, I don't doubt High Moon Studios at all. Like, I really don't. They have an amazing track record so far. The Transformers games they made were a lot of fun, and this game doesn't disappoint either. Honestly, if they were to make a Deadpool 2, I would so buy it. So, I guess that's all I really need to say on the matter. This is Realm Wars, and now to never hear from me in a couple of months, because that's how this channel works now, apparently.